Hello there, and welcome to the Sleepy Science Society. Tonight, we are drifting into the quiet depths of the world's forests, those ancient places where shadows stretch long between towering trunks, and life weaves itself into patterns more intricate than we can fully comprehend. If this journey brings you peace, if these stories help you settle into rest, I gently invite you to like and subscribe. It helps others find their way here too, one sleepy soul at a time. But for now, all you need to do is breathe. Let your shoulders drop. Allow your mind to wander through these green cathedrals as we explore the remarkable, sometimes astonishing truths about forests that science has slowly uncovered. Forests are not simply collections of trees standing side by side. They are living systems of stunning complexity, where every organism, from the tallest conifer piercing the sky to the smallest bacterium working through decay in the soil, plays a role in maintaining the whole. When you step into a forest, you enter a world that has been refining itself for millions of years, developing relationships and strategies for survival that challenge our assumptions about what intelligence looks like, about what communication means, about what cooperation requires. Picture yourself now, standing at the edge of an old forest as evening light filters through the canopy. The air smells of earth and moss, and something green and alive. The sounds around you are layered, the rustle of leaves, the distant call of a bird, the whisper of wind moving through branches high overhead. This is where we begin our exploration, in the quiet understanding that forests hold secrets we are only beginning to learn how to read. The living architecture of forests. When you look at a forest from the outside, you might see a mass of green, an undifferentiated wall of vegetation. But step inside, and you discover something entirely different. A world of distinct layers, each with its own character, its own inhabitants, its own rules for survival. Scientists call this vertical stratification, and it is one of the defining features of forest ecosystems. Understanding these layers helps us see how forests function as integrated systems, rather than random assemblages of plants. The emergent layer, found primarily in tropical rainforests, consists of the tallest trees that push above the general canopy. These giants, some reaching heights of over 60 meters, stand exposed to full sunlight, strong winds, and temperature extremes that trees below never experience. Their crowns spread wide, capturing light that would otherwise fall to lower levels. Birds that nest in these heights, like eagles and hornbills, survey vast territories from their high perches. Life in the emergent layer is a study in extremes. Intense heat during the day, rapid cooling at night, and constant exposure to weather that would seem hostile to anything living. Below this lies the main canopy, a continuous or nearly continuous layer of tree crowns that forms the roof of the forest world. In mature forests, the canopy intercepts between 60 and 90% of available sunlight. This is where the forest does most of its photosynthesis, where most of its leaves unfurl to catch the sun's energy and transform it into sugars that fuel growth. The canopy is not a simple ceiling. It is a landscape unto itself, with its own terrain of branches and vines, its own pools of water collected in the crooks of trees, its own gardens of plants that never touch the ground. Creatures that live here have evolved remarkable adaptations for moving through this three-dimensional space. Prehensile tails for gripping, elongated limbs for leaping, wings for gliding between trees. The canopy hums with life, though much of it remains hidden from observers on the forest floor. Rain does not simply fall through a forest canopy. Instead, it is caught, slowed, redirected. Water strikes leaves and begins a gradual journey downward. Some droplets merge and flow along branches toward the trunk, sliding down the bark in thin streams that soak into the soil near the tree's base. Other droplets gather on leaf edges and fall in larger, slower drops. This process of canopy interception has profound effects on forest hydrology. It reduces the erosive force of rainfall, giving water time to infiltrate the soil, rather than running off in sheets that carry nutrients away. It creates a more even distribution of moisture throughout the forest floor, supporting organisms that depend on consistent humidity. Below the canopy lies the understory, a dim realm where trees and shrubs grow in the filtered light that penetrates from above. These plants have adapted to low-light conditions, often growing larger, thinner leaves to maximize the surface area available for photosynthesis. The understory is where young trees wait for their chance at the canopy, sometimes remaining in this intermediate state for decades until a gap opens overhead. When a large tree falls, creating a light gap in the canopy, the race begins. Saplings that have been growing slowly suddenly accelerate their growth, competing for the newly available sunlight. The forest's response to disturbance reveals its dynamic nature. It is not a static entity, but a constantly shifting mosaic of patches in different stages of recovery and growth. The shrub layer and herb layer occupy the lowest levels of vegetation above the forest floor. These plants must not only tolerate deep shade, but also compete for nutrients with the extensive root systems of larger trees. Many have developed specialized strategies. Some flower early in spring before the canopy leaves fully emerge, capturing a brief window of bright light. Others form partnerships with fungi that help them access nutrients more efficiently. Still others produce chemicals that inhibit the growth of competing plants, claiming their small territories through chemical warfare. Finally, we reach the forest floor itself, a place of seemingly quiet decay that is actually seething with activity. The layer of leaf litter that covers the ground in most forests is far more than dead plant matter. It is a processing facility, a nutrient recycling center, a habitat for countless organisms that break down complex molecules and return their components to the soil where they can be used again. In temperate forests, this layer fluctuates with the seasons. Thick in autumn when leaves fall, gradually thinning through winter and spring as decomposers work through it, then building again with the next autumn's fall. The composition of this litter matters enormously. Different tree species produce leaves with different chemical properties. Some leaves decompose quickly, releasing their nutrients within a few months. Others, particularly from conifers, contain compounds like lignin that resist breakdown, remaining on the forest floor for years. This variation in decomposition rate affects everything from soil pH to nutrient availability to the types of fungi and bacteria that can thrive in a particular forest. Beneath the litter lies the soil itself, and here we encounter one of the forest's most profound secrets, most of a forest's biomass and activity happens underground. In temperate and boreal forests, approximately 70% of the carbon stored in the forest ecosystem resides not in the massive trunks and branches visible above ground, but in the soil beneath your feet. This hidden carbon represents centuries of plant growth and decomposition. Layer upon layer of organic matter being slowly transformed by the action of roots, fungi, bacteria, and countless invertebrates. Forest soils are structured in horizons, distinct layers that develop over time. The uppermost organic layer contains that actively decomposing litter we just discussed. Below it, the topsoil mixes organic matter with mineral particles, creating a rich medium where most plant roots concentrate their growth. Deeper still lie layers of partially weathered rock material, and eventually, the bedrock that forms the foundation for everything above. But to think of forest soil as merely a growing medium misses its true nature. Soil is alive. A single teaspoon of forest soil contains more microorganisms than there are people on Earth. Bacteria, fungi, protozoa, nematodes, microarthropods. These tiny creatures form complex food webs in the spaces between soil particles. They break down organic matter, cycle nutrients, form symbiotic relationships with plant roots, protect plants from pathogens, and fundamentally shape the forest ecosystem's health and functioning. The structure of soil matters as much as its chemistry. Healthy forest soil is porous, allowing air and water to move through it. This porosity depends on the activity of soil organisms and roots, which create channels and aggregates. When soil becomes compacted through heavy use or inappropriate management, its structure collapses. Water can no longer infiltrate properly, leading to runoff and erosion. Roots struggle to penetrate the densified layers. The community of soil organisms declines. A forest can survive for a time with damaged soil, but its resilience diminishes. Its growth slows, and its ability to provide ecosystem services degrades. Understanding forest architecture requires us to think vertically, but also to recognize that these layers are not separate kingdoms. They are interconnected, with energy and materials flowing between them constantly. A tree does not exist only at one level. Its crown spreads through the canopy, its trunk passes through the understory, and its roots extend through multiple soil horizons. Birds that nest in the canopy feed on insects from the understory and leaf litter. Nutrients absorbed by roots in deep soil layers are transported upward and eventually return to the forest floor in falling leaves. The forest functions as an integrated whole, and this integration gives it both its complexity and its resilience. The hidden networks below. Beneath the visible architecture of the forest exists another structure, one that remained hidden from science until relatively recently. This is the mycorrhizal network, an underground web of fungal threads that connects trees and plants across the forest floor, facilitating exchanges that challenge our traditional understanding of how forests work. The story begins with mycorrhizae, which literally translates to fungus root. These are symbiotic associations between soil fungi and plant roots. Relationships so ancient and so fundamental that approximately 90% of land plant species form them. The partnership is straightforward in its basic outline. Fungi colonize plant roots, extending thread-like structures called hyphae far out into the soil. These hyphae, finer than the finest roots, vastly expand the plant's effective surface area for absorbing water and nutrients. In return, the plant provides the fungus with sugars produced through photosynthesis, carbon-rich compounds that the fungus cannot make on its own. But the story becomes more interesting when we realize that a single fungal individual can colonize multiple plants simultaneously, creating physical connections between separate organisms. These common mycorrhizal networks, sometimes called the Wood Wide Web, transform our understanding of forests from collections of competing individuals into interconnected communities. The discovery of these networks is largely credited to forest ecologist Suzanne Simard, who grew up in the forests of British Columbia, where her family had worked as foresters for generations. In the mid-90s, Simard conducted experiments that would fundamentally change how we think about forests. She grew Douglas fir and paper birch seedlings together and labeled the leaves of some trees with radioactive carbon isotopes, chemical signatures she could later track. What she found astonished the scientific community. Carbon was moving between the trees underground. When the Douglas fir seedlings were shaded, they received carbon from the birch. When the birch were stressed, they received carbon from the fire. The trees were sharing resources through fungal intermediaries. Further research has revealed that these networks are extensive. In Canadian forests, a single mycorrhizal network may connect hundreds of trees and shrubs across significant distances. The largest known fungal individual, a honey mushroom called Armillaria ostoyae, in Oregon's Blue Mountains, covers more than 9 square kilometers and may be over 2,000 years old. This single organism connects and influences countless trees across its vast range. The fungal networks facilitate multiple types of exchanges. Water moves through them, potentially allowing trees in well-watered areas to supply those experiencing drought. Nitrogen, phosphorus, and other mineral nutrients flow along the hyphae, redistributed according to complex patterns that scientists are still working to understand. Chemical signals pass through the networks as well. When a tree is attacked by insects or infected by pathogens, it can send warning signals through the mycorrhizal connections, allowing neighboring trees to activate their defensive systems before the threat reaches them. Perhaps most intriguingly, research suggests that these exchanges are not random, but influenced by relationships between the connected trees. Simard's work identified what she calls mother trees, large, old individuals that serve as hubs in the mycorrhizal network, connected to dozens or even hundreds of other trees. These mother trees appear to preferentially support their own offspring, channeling resources toward genetically related seedlings growing in their shadow. When mother trees are injured or dying, they increase the flow of nutrients and defensive compounds to younger trees, passing along not just resources, but a kind of chemical wisdom. It is important to note that the interpretation of these findings has generated scientific debate. While the existence of mycorrhizal networks is well established, some researchers caution against anthropomorphizing the relationships too much. The fungi are not acting altruistically. They are ensuring their own survival by maintaining healthy plant partners. The flow of resources through networks may be more about fungal self-interest than tree cooperation. And while substances can move between connected trees, the amounts are often small, and it remains unclear how ecologically significant these transfers are in many contexts. A 2023 analysis in the journal Nature, Ecology, and Evolution argued that some claims about mycorrhizal networks facilitating cooperation between trees have been overstated. The evidence, while suggestive, includes many caveats and uncertainties. Demonstrating that two trees are actually connected through a living fungal network is technically challenging. By the time you dig up roots to examine them, you have destroyed the very connections you wanted to study. Fungal networks are also ephemeral. Connections that exist today may not exist next week. And alternative pathways exist for resource movement between trees, including direct root-to-root contact and movement through soil pores, making it difficult to attribute transfers specifically to mycorrhizal fungi. Despite these cautions, the mycorrhizal network concept has proven valuable for highlighting the importance of soil fungi and the interconnected nature of forest ecosystems. Even if the networks function differently than popular accounts sometimes suggest, they undeniably play crucial roles in forest health. Forests managed to preserve old trees and maintain fungal diversity appear more resilient and recover more quickly from disturbance. Clear cuts that remove all trees simultaneously may damage these networks, potentially slowing regrowth. Recognition of underground connections has led to more nuanced approaches to forest management that consider not just individual trees, but the relationships between them. The underground world of forests contains other wonders beyond mycorrhizae. Root systems themselves form intricate architectures adapted to different strategies for acquiring resources. Some trees, like pines, send a strong taproot deep into the ground, anchoring themselves firmly and accessing deep water sources. Others, like spruces, spread shallow, wide-ranging root systems that capture nutrients from the upper soil layers. In tropical rainforests, where most nutrients are concentrated in the thin layer of decomposing organic matter on the soil surface, many large trees produce buttress roots, wide flanges that spread out from the trunk base, increasing stability while keeping most of the root system near the nutrient-rich surface. Roots are not simply passive absorbers of water and minerals. They actively modify their environment, secreting compounds that dissolve mineral nutrients from soil particles, that attract beneficial microorganisms, that inhibit the growth of competitors. Root tips continuously die and are replaced, generating a stream of organic matter that feeds soil organisms. As roots grow through soil, they create channels that, when the roots eventually die and decompose, become preferred pathways for new roots, for water infiltration, and for the movement of soil air. The forest floor and the world beneath it function as the forest's digestive system and its memory. Here, generations of growth are transformed back into raw materials for the next generation. Here, information encoded in chemical signals moves between organisms. Here, the fundamental work of maintaining the forest proceeds mostly unseen, in the slow, patient rhythms of decomposition and growth that stretch across years and decades. Forest biodiversity and inhabitants. Stand quietly in a forest long enough, and the forest's hidden life begins to reveal itself. A movement in the leaf litter resolves into a beetle pushing through fallen leaves. A flash of color becomes a bird darting between branches. A rustling overhead marks a squirrel's progress through the canopy. Forests harbor more biodiversity than perhaps any other terrestrial ecosystem, and this diversity exists at every scale, from the largest mammals to the microscopic organisms that outnumber all others combined. Scientists estimate there are approximately 63,000 known tree species worldwide, with perhaps 9,000 more waiting to be described. This figure alone speaks to the diversity of forest ecosystems. But trees are only the beginning. Over 80% of the Earth's terrestrial animals, plants, fungi, and bacteria live in forests. This concentration of life results from the structural complexity we discussed earlier. All those vertical layers, all those microhabitats created by varying light levels, moisture gradients, and resource availability. A forest offers not just one type of habitat, but hundreds, sometimes thousands, of distinct niches that different species can occupy. Tropical rainforests represent the pinnacle of this biodiversity. A single hectare of Amazon rainforest may contain more tree species than exist in all of North America. The reasons for this extraordinary diversity remain subjects of scientific investigation and debate, but several factors clearly contribute. Tropical forests have been relatively stable over geological time, allowing species to diversify without the repeated extinctions that temperate regions experienced during ice ages. The year-round warmth and moisture support continuous growth and reproduction, maintaining large populations of many species. And the complex three-dimensional structure of rainforests creates countless specialized niches that species can adapt to exploit. Many rainforest species are incredibly specialized, dependent on specific resources or conditions found only in narrow circumstances. Some orchids grow only on particular tree species. Some insects feed on only one kind of plant. Some frogs breed exclusively in the small pools of water that collect in bromeliad plants growing in tree branches. This specialization produces ecosystems of breathtaking intricacy but also vulnerability. When forests fragment or specific conditions change, specialized species may have nowhere else to go. Animals that live in forests have evolved remarkable adaptations for navigating and exploiting their particular layer of the forest environment. In the canopy, mobility is paramount. Many species have developed the ability to move through three-dimensional space with extraordinary agility. Monkeys and apes use their grasping hands and prehensile tails to swing from branch to branch. Squirrels make seemingly impossible leaps between trees, their bushy tails providing balance and acting like rudders during flight. Specialized gliders, from flying squirrels to gliding lizards to certain species of frogs, have evolved, structures that allow them to plane from one tree to another, extending the distance they can travel without descending to the dangerous forest floor. Birds dominate the canopy and upper forest layers, their powers of flight making them supremely adapted to this aerial environment. Different species exploit different aspects of the canopy. Some glean insects from leaves, Others extract nectar from flowers. Still others eat fruit or nuts. Woodpeckers excavate insects from dead wood, creating holes that later serve as nest sites for dozens of other species. Raptors perch in tall trees, surveying clearings for prey. The diversity of bird species in mature forests reflects the diversity of food sources and nesting sites the forest provides. The forest floor, despite receiving little sunlight, teems with life adapted to dimmer conditions. Mammals like deer, wild pigs, and tapirs forage for fallen fruits, nuts, and herbaceous plants. Predators, from foxes to big cats, hunt these herbivores, using the forest cover to stalk close before attacking. Many ground-dwelling species have keen hearing and acute senses of smell, adaptations that compensate for the limited visibility in dense understory vegetation. But perhaps the greatest diversity, certainly the greatest biomass, exists in the category of organisms we notice least. The invertebrates, insects, spiders, millipedes, earthworms, nematodes, and countless other invertebrate groups make up the vast majority of animal species in any forest. They perform functions essential to forest health. Insects pollinate flowers, ensuring reproduction for countless plant species. The herbivores consume vegetation, transforming plant tissue into animal protein that feeds birds, bats, and other predators. They decompose dead organic matter, breaking down leaves, wood, and animal remains into simpler compounds. The leaf litter layer of a temperate forest might contain over 1,000 species of invertebrates in a single square meter. Most are tiny, visible only with magnification. But their collective impact is enormous. They physically fragment fallen leaves, chewing them into smaller pieces that bacteria and fungi can more easily colonize. They create tunnels and passages through the litter, aerating it and facilitating water movement. Their waste products contribute organic matter and nutrients to the forming soil. In the soil itself, the density of life becomes almost incomprehensible. As mentioned earlier, a teaspoon of forest soil may contain more microorganisms than there are people on Earth. These bacteria, archaea, fungi, and protists engage in biochemical transformations that plants cannot perform on their own. They fix atmospheric nitrogen into forms plants can use. They break down complex organic molecules into simpler nutrients. They form protective associations with roots, defending against pathogenic organisms. Without these microscopic workers, forests as we know them could not exist. Fungi deserve special attention for their roles in forest ecosystems. Beyond the mycorrhizal fungi we have already discussed, forests host thousands of saprotrophic fungal species that specialize in decomposing different types of organic matter. Some break down fresh leaf litter. Others specialize in decomposing wood, a challenging substrate because of compounds like lignin that resist degradation. The sequence of fungal species that colonizes a fallen log follows a predictable pattern, with different species dominating at different stages of decay. A large tree that falls in an old-growth forest may take decades or even centuries to fully decompose, serving as habitat and nursery throughout its slow transformation back into soil. The animals we most often associate with forests, the large, charismatic mammals and birds, are in many ways the tip of the iceberg. They depend on the vast supporting cast of smaller organisms that process nutrients, pollinate plants, disperse seeds, and maintain the conditions that allow forests to function. Remove the insects from a forest, and most birds disappear. Remove the soil organisms, and nutrient cycling collapses. Forest biodiversity operates as an interconnected web, where the loss of seemingly insignificant species can trigger cascading effects throughout the system. Different forest types support different communities of organisms, each adapted to the particular conditions their forest provides. Boreal forests, with their long, harsh winters and short growing seasons, host relatively few species, but those present are supremely adapted to the cold. Large herbivores like moose and caribou browse on woody vegetation, while predators like wolves and lynx hunt them through the snow. Many bird species migrate to boreal forests for the summer, when daylight extends nearly 24 hours and abundant insects provide food for raising young. Temperate forests experience more moderate conditions and consequently support greater diversity than boreal regions. The seasonal cycle of deciduous temperate forests creates a unique rhythm of life. Spring emergence when light reaches the forest floor before the canopy leafs out. Summer abundance in the full canopy. Autumn preparation as trees withdraw nutrients from leaves before dropping them. And winter dormancy when many animals hibernate or migrate and the forest grows quiet. Tropical forests, as we have noted, support the highest diversity. But even among tropical forests, variation is enormous. Lowland rainforests differ from montane cloud forests. Seasonal dry forests undergo periods of water stress that rainforests never experience. Each variation selects for different species and different adaptive strategies. The biodiversity of forests represents millions of years of evolution, with species adapting not only to physical conditions but also to each other. The relationships between forest organisms, from competition to cooperation to predation to mutualism, create a web of interactions, so complex that no ecologist can fully map it. Yet, this complexity provides resilience. When conditions change or disturbances occur, the diversity of species present means that some will possess the traits needed to survive and eventually thrive under new circumstances. Biodiversity is the forest's insurance policy against an uncertain future. Water, climate, and atmospheric magic. Forests are often called the lungs of the earth, a metaphor that captures their role in gas exchange but perhaps understates their influence on the atmosphere and climate. Forests do not merely respond passively to their environment. They actively shape it, creating conditions that affect everything from local rainfall patterns to global climate systems. To understand forests fully, we must understand how they interact with air and water in ways that ripple across continents and through the atmosphere itself. Let us begin with photosynthesis, the fundamental process by which forests capture solar energy and transform it into chemical energy stored in plant tissues. During photosynthesis, trees absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and, using the energy from sunlight, combine it with water to create glucose and other sugars. Oxygen is released as a byproduct. This process, occurring in chloroplasts within leaf cells, represents one of the most important chemical transformations on Earth. The green pigment, chlorophyll, captures light energy, particularly in the red and blue wavelengths, while reflecting green light, which is why plants appear green to our eyes. A mature tree produces approximately 100 kilograms of oxygen per year through photosynthesis. To put this in perspective, a single large tree generates enough oxygen to supply 2 people for a year. However, it is worth noting that forests contribute about 28% of the Earth's oxygen production, with oceanic phytoplankton generating the majority. The ocean's role in oxygen production often surprises people, but the vast expanse of ocean surface and the rapid growth rate of microscopic phytoplankton make them the dominant oxygen producers globally. Still, forests' contribution remains vital, and their role extends far beyond simple gas exchange. The significance of photosynthesis extends far beyond oxygen production. Through this process, forests remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, effectively acting as carbon sinks that help regulate greenhouse gas concentrations. According to estimates from NASA, tropical forests alone absorb over 1.4 billion tons of carbon dioxide annually, more than 2/3 of what all European Union countries emit combined. When carbon is incorporated into wood through photosynthesis and growth, it can remain stored for decades, centuries, or even millennia if the tree eventually becomes part of long-lasting wood products, or if dead trees become buried in ways that prevent decomposition. Think about what this means in practical terms. Every wooden beam in a house, every piece of furniture, every wooden tool represents carbon that was once floating in the atmosphere as the carbon dioxide, but is now locked away in solid form. Ancient wooden structures preserved through centuries or millennia still contain carbon absorbed from the atmosphere when those trees were growing. In this way, forests and forest products serve as long-term carbon storage systems, removing greenhouse gases from circulation and helping to stabilize Earth's climate. The carbon storage capacity of forests is not distributed evenly through the ecosystem, and understanding this distribution reveals surprising facts about where the carbon actually resides. As we mentioned earlier, most forest carbon exists in the soil, rather than in the massive trunks and branches we see above ground. Forest soils hold approximately 8% of total forest carbon, more than all the carbon stored in trees and forest products combined. This underground carbon represents the accumulated organic matter from generations of plants, fallen leaves, dead roots, decomposed wood, and the bodies of countless organisms that lived and died in the soil. In the United Kingdom, for example, approximately 70% of the carbon stored in forests resides in the soil. Walk through a British woodland, and the carbon beneath your feet far exceeds the carbon in all the trees around you. This soil carbon exists in various forms, from recently dead organic matter still recognizable as leaves or twigs, to partially decomposed humus, to highly stable compounds that can persist in soil for centuries. The rate at which organic matter decomposes and releases its carbon back to the atmosphere depends on temperature, moisture, and the chemical composition of the organic material itself. When forests are destroyed, whether through logging, clearing for agriculture, or wildfire, much of this stored carbon returns to the atmosphere as carbon dioxide. The loss of forests thus has a double impact on climate. It eliminates an active carbon sink that was removing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, and it releases carbon that was previously stored, adding to atmospheric greenhouse gas concentrations. This dynamic makes forests crucial players in the global carbon cycle and central to efforts to mitigate climate change. Protecting existing forests and restoring degraded forests represent among the most effective natural climate solutions available, capable of sequestering significant amounts of carbon while simultaneously providing benefits for biodiversity, water quality, and human well-being. Forests influence water cycles as profoundly as they affect carbon cycling, and the mechanisms by which they do so reveal the intimate connections between life, atmosphere, and Earth's hydrological systems. Trees act as massive pumps, drawing water up from deep in the soil and releasing it into the atmosphere through tiny pores in their leaves, called stomata. This process, called transpiration, occurs when water evaporates from the moist internal surfaces of leaves and diffuses out through the stomata into the surrounding air. The quantities of water moved through transpiration are truly staggering and reveal forests as major drivers of regional water cycles. A large oak tree, standing perhaps 20 meters tall with a full crown of leaves, might transpire over 50 liters of water on a hot summer day. Imagine 150 1-liter bottles of water being pumped from the ground, moved up through the tree's vascular system, and released as water vapor into the air, all in a single day. Across an entire forest, transpiration can move enormous volumes of water from the ground to the atmosphere. A hectare of dense forest might transpire tens of thousands of liters of water daily during the growing season, effectively functioning as a biological water pump that rivals mechanical systems in its capacity to move water against gravity. This water vapor does not simply vanish into the sky, dissipating without consequence. It rises into the air, cooling as it ascends, eventually condensing to form clouds. These clouds may drift for kilometers or hundreds of kilometers before the water falls again as precipitation. In some regions, particularly tropical rainforests, this recycled water accounts for a significant portion, sometimes even the majority of local rainfall. The forest, in essence, creates its own water supply through this recycling process. Research on the Amazon rainforest has provided stunning insights into how forests generate their own precipitation. The Amazon basin contains the world's largest rainforest, and studies have shown that the forest generates much of its own rain through transpiration and evaporation. Water that falls as rain is absorbed by trees, transported upward through their vascular systems, released through transpiration, rises into the atmosphere, forms clouds, and falls again as rain. Some estimates suggest that a single water molecule may cycle through this process 5 to 6 times as it moves across the Amazon basin from east to west. The trees are not simply passive recipients of rainfall, they are active participants in creating that rainfall. Even more remarkably, forests appear capable of influencing when rain falls, not just how much. Studies in the Amazon have demonstrated that trees can sense seasonal changes through day length and other environmental cues, and they begin increasing transpiration before the rainy season would naturally arrive based on atmospheric circulation patterns alone. This increased transpiration pumps more moisture into the atmosphere, which contributes to cloud formation and precipitation. The result is that the rainy season in parts of the Amazon begins 2 to 3 months earlier than climate patterns alone would produce. The trees effectively trigger their own rainy season, calling forth the water they need through their collective action. The mechanisms behind this phenomenon remain subjects of active investigation, but the implication is profound. Forests do not just respond to their climate, they partially create it. Over 3/4 of the world's accessible freshwater originates from rivers flowing through or near forests. This statistic alone speaks to the critical role forests play in the global water supply. But the relationship goes deeper than simply geography. Forests actively maintain both the quantity and quality of water flowing through river systems, acting as living water treatment facilities that protect the purity of streams and rivers while regulating their flow patterns throughout the year. When rain falls on a forest, the forest canopy intercepts much of it initially. Water droplets collect on leaves and branches, slowing their descent and spreading the water's arrival at the ground over an extended period rather than in an intense pulse. This interception has multiple benefits. First, it reduces the erosive power of falling water. Rain falling from clouds can strike the ground with considerable force, especially during heavy storms. This impact can detach soil particles, beginning the process of erosion. But when rain first strikes leaves and branches tens of meters above the ground, much of that kinetic energy is dissipated. Water then drips from leaf edges or flows down branches and trunks more gently, arriving at the forest floor with far less erosive potential. Second, canopy interception allows some water to evaporate directly back into the atmosphere without ever reaching the ground, a process that helps moderate local humidity and contributes to the forest's role in generating clouds and precipitation. In dense forests, a significant percentage of rainfall, sometimes 15 to 30%, may evaporate from leaf surfaces before reaching the ground. Water that does reach the forest floor encounters a thick layer of leaf litter in most forests, another component of the forest's water management system. This litter acts like a sponge, absorbing water and releasing it gradually. It protects the underlying soil from the direct impact of water drops, further reducing erosion. And as water percolates through the decomposing organic matter, it begins a filtration process that will continue as it moves through the soil layers below. The relationship between forests and water quality is so strong that water treatment costs decrease as forest cover in a watershed increases. Research indicates that every 10% increase in forest cover leads to a roughly 20% decrease in downstream water treatment costs. Forests filter out sediments, absorb pollutants, and moderate stream temperatures, providing services that would require expensive infrastructure to replicate artificially. Forests also moderate local temperatures, creating microclimates that differ substantially from surrounding cleared areas. The shade provided by the canopy keeps forest floors cooler during summer, while the forest structure retains heat during winter, reducing temperature extremes. Measurements have shown that temperatures inside a mature forest can be several degrees cooler than in nearby open areas on hot days. This cooling effect extends beyond the forest itself. Forests influence temperature patterns downwind, and large forested regions can affect weather patterns across significant distances. At a global scale, forests influence climate through multiple mechanisms. Beyond carbon sequestration, forests affect the Earth's albedo, its reflectivity. Forests generally absorb more solar radiation than other land surfaces, contributing to warming, but they also increase evapotranspiration, which has a cooling effect. In tropical regions, the cooling from evapotranspiration typically outweighs the warming from reduced albedo, making tropical forests important climate regulators. In boreal regions, the calculation becomes more complex, as dark coniferous forests absorb significantly more radiation than the snow-covered tundra or grasslands they might replace. The loss of forests can trigger changes in regional climate patterns. Deforestation in the Amazon has been linked to changes in rainfall patterns not only in South America, but in distant regions connected through atmospheric circulation. Large-scale forest loss can reduce rainfall, increase temperatures, and alter the frequency of extreme weather events. There are growing concerns that continued deforestation could push tropical forests past tipping points beyond which they might not recover, potentially transforming rainforest into savanna and releasing vast amounts of stored carbon. The connection between forests and atmosphere extends to the chemicals forests release. Many tree species emit volatile organic compounds that, once in the atmosphere, can influence cloud formation. These compounds may act as nuclei around which water vapor condenses, potentially affecting precipitation patterns. Forests also emit a distinctive smell, that fresh, clean scent of the woods, which comes partly from these organic compounds. The Japanese practice of shinrin-yoku, or forest bathing, is based partly on the idea that inhaling these forest chemicals provides health benefits, a claim that some research supports. Understanding forests' atmospheric and climatic roles has become increasingly urgent as climate change accelerates. Forests are simultaneously affected by changing climate and crucial to mitigating it. Rising temperatures, shifting precipitation patterns, and increasing frequency of extreme events like droughts and wildfires are stressing forests worldwide. Yet, protecting and restoring forests remains one of the most effective natural climate solutions available, capable of sequestering significant amounts of carbon while providing numerous co-benefits for biodiversity and human well-being. Ancient forests and living history. Some trees alive today germinated when human civilizations were just beginning to emerge. Bristlecone pines in the mountains of California's White Mountains include individuals over 4,000 years old, making them among the oldest known living organisms on Earth. These ancient trees stand as living witnesses to millennia of climate variation, their growth rings recording summers of plenty and winters of hardship. Wet years and drought years, extending back through human history into prehistory. Old-growth forests, those that have developed for centuries or millennia without major human disturbance, possess characteristics that distinguish them fundamentally from younger forests. The trees are larger, obviously, but size is only the most visible difference. Old-growth forests contain complex structural features that take generations to develop. Multiple canopy layers, large standing dead trees called snags, fallen logs in various stages of decay, and an accumulation of organic matter in the soil that represents centuries of growth and decomposition. These structural features support biodiversity that younger forests cannot match. Many species, from cavity-nesting birds to specialized fungi to certain lichens, depend on old growth characteristics. The spotted owl, whose habitat requirements include old-growth forests of the Pacific Northwest, became the focus of intense controversy, precisely because preserving its habitat meant protecting some of the last remaining ancient forests in the region. The age structure of old-growth forests differs markedly from younger stands. Instead of trees, all roughly the same age, old-growth forests contain individuals spanning generations. The oldest trees, those massive specimens that dominate the canopy, may have several centuries of growth behind them. Below them, trees of intermediate age wait for opportunities created when one of the giants falls. And scattered throughout, young seedlings represent the forest's future. Most of them destined to die before reaching maturity, but some few positioned to eventually replace their predecessors. This age diversity contributes to resilience. When disturbances occur, whether insect outbreaks, disease, windstorms, or fire, they rarely kill all trees uniformly. Some age classes and some species prove more resistant than others. The survivors maintain forest structure and accelerate recovery. In contrast, even aged forests, where all trees were established simultaneously, tend to be more vulnerable to disturbances that target particular age classes. Trees record environmental history in their growth rings. Each year, trees add a new layer of wood beneath their bark. The width of this ring reflects growing conditions that year. Wide rings indicate favorable conditions with adequate moisture and warmth, while narrow rings indicate stress from drought, cold, or other limiting factors. By examining core samples from old trees, scientists can reconstruct climate conditions extending back centuries or even millennia. This field, called dendrochronology, has provided remarkable insights into past climate variations. Researchers have used tree ring records to identify major volcanic eruptions, drought periods, and temperature fluctuations throughout history. The patterns in tree rings have helped date archaeological sites, understand historical climate variations that affected human civilizations, and place current climate change in a longer-term context. Forest succession, the process by which forests develop and change over time, unfolds across decades and centuries. When a disturbance clears an area, whether through fire, windstorm, logging, or other event, a predictable sequence of recovery typically follows. Initially, pioneer species colonize the site. These are typically fast-growing, sun-loving plants that can quickly establish themselves in the harsh conditions of a recently disturbed area. In temperate regions, species like aspens, birches, and alders often fill this role. As these pioneer trees grow, they begin to modify conditions on the site. Their shade reduces soil temperatures and moisture evaporation. Their leaf litter adds organic matter to the soil. These changes create conditions more favorable for longer-lived, slower-growing species that could not have established themselves immediately after the disturbance. Over decades, these later successional species grow up through the pioneer canopy, eventually overtopping the fast-growing but shorter-lived pioneers. The process continues through multiple stages, with community composition shifting as different species rise and fall in dominance. Eventually, if disturbances do not reset succession, the forest reaches a stage that ecologists call climax, where species composition becomes relatively stable, dominated by long-lived species that can reproduce successfully in their own shade. This description of succession as a linear progression is somewhat simplified. In reality, the process is messier, more variable, and more dependent on chance events than early ecological theory suggested. Which seeds arrive at a site first can influence the entire trajectory of succession. Small variations in soil or topography create different microenvironments that succession differently, and disturbances rarely affect an entire landscape uniformly, creating complex mosaics of patches in different successional stages. The time required for a forest to fully mature varies enormously, depending on climate, species, and site conditions. In tropical regions with year-round growing conditions, forests can recover substantial structure and diversity within a few decades. In temperate regions, development is slower, and true old-growth characteristics may not emerge until several centuries have passed. In harsh boreal environments, forests develop very slowly, and trees that are only a few inches in diameter might be a century old. This slow development of old-growth characteristics is one reason why protecting remaining ancient forests is so important. Once lost, these ecosystems cannot be quickly replaced. A replanted forest, even if carefully managed, will take generations to develop the complexity and the accumulated legacy of soil organic matter that characterize old growth. The tree species might technically be the same, but the ecosystem functions differently. Old forests also serve as reservoirs of genetic diversity. Within a forest, individual trees of the same species may differ genetically in ways that affect their resistance to disease, their tolerance for drought or cold, their growth rates, and their ability to produce viable seeds. This genetic variation provides raw material for adaptation to changing conditions. When forests are cleared and replaced with plantations of genetically uniform stock, this diversity is lost, potentially reducing the forest's ability to respond to future environmental changes. The slow rhythms of forest time provide a different perspective on change. Human lives span decades. Political and economic systems operate on even shorter cycles. But forests develop and persist across centuries, linking us to a deeper past and an extended future. To stand among ancient trees is to experience a temporal scale that dwarfs human concerns, a reminder that some processes cannot be rushed, and some losses cannot be undone within any time frame meaningful to us. The boreal giants stretch an unbroken green belt around the top of the world, just south of the Arctic tundra, and you have sketched the rough outline of the boreal forest, also called the taiga. This is the largest terrestrial biome on Earth, a vast sweep of coniferous forest that extends across Canada, Alaska, Scandinavia, and Russia, covering approximately 17 million square kilometers. Boreal forests exist in one of the planet's most challenging environments for tree growth. Winters are long and brutally cold, with temperatures regularly dropping below -40 degrees Celsius. The growing season is short, often lasting only 3 to 4 months. Snow buries the forest floor for much of the year. Yet despite these harsh conditions, or perhaps because of them, the boreal forest plays a disproportionately important role in global ecology. The trees that dominate boreal forests are primarily evergreen conifers, spruces, firs, pines, and larches. These species possess adaptations that allow them to survive conditions that would kill most other trees. Their needle-shaped leaves minimize surface area, reducing water loss during winter when frozen ground makes water unavailable. The needles are coated with waxy cuticles that provide additional protection against desiccation and cold damage. And the dark green color of conifer needles allows them to absorb maximum solar radiation, crucial in an environment where the sun remains low in the sky, even during summer. Keeping their needles year-round rather than dropping them each autumn provides an advantage in the short boreal growing season. When conditions become favorable for photosynthesis, evergreen trees can immediately begin capturing energy without first having to produce a new set of leaves. This efficiency allows conifers to eke out growth even in marginal conditions where deciduous trees would struggle. The shape of boreal conifers, that characteristic conical form, serves multiple functions. The sloping branches shed snow efficiently, preventing breakage from heavy snow loading, and the narrow profile reduces wind resistance, important in exposed northern landscapes where winter storms sweep across the forest with tremendous force. Despite the harsh conditions, or again perhaps because of them, boreal forests are remarkably productive as carbon sinks. Estimates suggest that boreal forests sequester more carbon than tropical rainforests, a surprising finding given the relative productivity of tropical systems. The key lies in decomposition rates. In warm tropical conditions, organic matter decomposes rapidly, returning its carbon to the atmosphere almost as quickly as trees produce it. In the cold boreal environment, decomposition proceeds extremely slowly. Dead organic matter accumulates in thick layers on the forest floor and in the soil, where it can remain for decades or centuries. Much of the carbon in boreal ecosystems resides in permafrost, permanently frozen ground that underlies large portions of the boreal forest. Organic matter that accumulates in these frozen soils is essentially locked away from decomposition, stored indefinitely as long as the ground remains frozen. The boreal region contains enormous quantities of carbon in this form, making it a critical component of the global carbon cycle. However, this also makes boreal forests particularly vulnerable to climate change. As temperatures rise, permafrost is thawing, and previously frozen organic matter is becoming available to decomposers. The carbon that accumulated over millennia could be released within decades, creating a powerful positive feedback that accelerates warming. This represents one of the most concerning tipping points in the Earth's climate system. Boreal forests experience natural disturbances on vast scales. Insect outbreaks can kill trees across thousands of square kilometers. The spruce budworm, a moth whose caterpillars feed on spruce and fir needles, periodically erupts in populations that defoliate enormous areas of forest. While the affected trees often survive a single outbreak, repeated defoliation can weaken them to the point of death. Fire is perhaps the dominant natural disturbance in boreal forests. The combination of dry conditions during brief summers, highly flammable conifer needles and branches, and frequent lightning strikes creates conditions ripe for wildfire. Many boreal tree species have adapted to fire, with characteristics that allow them to survive, regenerate, or even benefit from burning. Some pine species produce serotinous cones that remain closed on the tree until exposed to the heat of fire, then open to release seeds into the recently burned and nutrient-rich seedbed. The fire regime in boreal forests operates on a different timescale than in many other ecosystems. Fire return intervals, the average time between fires at a given location, can range from 50 to 200 years or more. This means that individual fires often cover enormous areas, sometimes consuming millions of hectares. While such fires can seem catastrophic from a human perspective, they are natural components of boreal forest dynamics, resetting succession and maintaining the mosaic of forest ages across the landscape. Wildlife in boreal forests must cope with the same harsh conditions as the trees. Large herbivores like moose browse on woody vegetation, their long legs allowing them to move through deep snow. Caribou migrate across vast distances, following resources through the seasons. Predators like wolves and lynx hunt these herbivores, their populations rising and falling in cycles linked to prey abundance. Many bird species migrate to boreal forests for the brief summer, when the combination of long daylight hours and abundant insects provides ideal conditions for raising young. These birds connect the boreal forest to ecosystems across the hemisphere. Warblers that winter in Central American forests depend on boreal breeding grounds, while shorebirds that nest in the northern tundra feed in boreal wetlands during migration. Humans have lived in and used boreal forests for thousands of years. Indigenous peoples of the North developed cultures deeply adapted to the boreal environment, with economies based on hunting, fishing, and gathering of forest resources. Today, the boreal forest faces increasing pressure from industrial forestry, mining, and oil and gas development. Large areas remain relatively intact, but fragmentation from roads and resource extraction is spreading. The boreal forest reminds us that forests are not all warm, lush, and inviting places. They can be cold, harsh, and austere, yet still teem with life and provide essential ecological services. The very harshness that limits boreal forest productivity has also protected it from some of the pressures that have diminished forests in more temperate regions. But that protection is not absolute, and as the climate changes and development reaches farther north, the future of the boreal forest has become increasingly uncertain. Tropical rainforest wonders. If the boreal forest represents the extreme of austerity, where life persists despite harsh conditions and limited resources, tropical rainforests embody the opposite principle: exuberance without restraint. Where boreal forests grow slowly under harsh constraints, measuring their progress in decades for growth that might occur in years elsewhere, tropical rainforests grow year-round in conditions of abundant warmth and moisture. The result is an explosion of life unlike anything else on Earth, a density and diversity of organisms that staggers the imagination and challenges our ability to fully comprehend the intricacy of these ecosystems. Tropical rainforests occur in regions near the equator where temperatures remain warm throughout the year and rainfall is heavy and consistent. There is no winter here, no season when cold halts growth and forces life into dormancy. Every day provides conditions suitable for photosynthesis, for growth, for reproduction. The Amazon basin contains the largest block of tropical rainforest, stretching across nearly 7 million square kilometers and spanning 9 countries. The Congo Basin in Central Africa hosts the world's second largest tropical rainforest. And the forests of Southeast Asia, scattered across thousands of islands from Myanmar to New Guinea, represent the third major tropical forest region. Smaller fragments exist across Central America, West Africa, Madagascar, and various Pacific islands, remnants of once more extensive forest cover. The biodiversity of tropical rainforests borders on incomprehensible, existing at scales that seem almost impossible when you first encounter the numbers. A single hectare of tropical rainforest, an area about the size of 2 football fields placed side by side, might contain 200 different tree species. To put this in perspective, all of North America, spanning from Panama to the Arctic Circle and from the Atlantic to the Pacific, contains fewer tree species than you might find in this tiny patch of Amazon forest. The insects, spiders, and other invertebrates within that hectare number in the thousands of species, many still unnamed and unstudied by science. Walk through a tropical forest and understand that you are surrounded by more forms of life, more species, more genetic diversity than in perhaps any other place you might visit. The tree canopy alone, that layer of interwoven branches and leaves forming the forest's roof, supports entire communities of plants and animals that never descend to the ground. These canopy dwellers live their entire lives dozens of meters above the forest floor, in an aerial world where the challenges of movement, finding food, and avoiding predators differ fundamentally from ground-level existence. Some scientists who study rainforest ecosystems focus exclusively on the canopy, using specialized climbing techniques or constructing platforms and walkways to access this hard-to-reach realm, because they recognize that understanding the rainforest requires understanding life at all levels, not just what is easily observable from below. This extraordinary diversity has multiple roots, factors that have combined over millions of years to produce the richest terrestrial ecosystems on Earth. Tropical rainforests have existed continuously for extraordinary. The year-round growing season permits life cycles unavailable to temperate organisms. Some insects complete multiple generations in a single year, accelerating evolutionary change. And the three-dimensional structure of rainforests creates countless microhabitats, from sunny canopy tops to dark forest floors, from dry ridge tops to wet valley bottoms, each selecting for different adaptations. Specialization in tropical rainforests reaches extremes found nowhere else. Some plants are pollinated by only a single species of insect. Some insects feed on only one plant species. Some frogs breed in the tiny pools of water that collect where leaves join the stem, never descending to ground level. This specialization produces remarkable adaptations, but also vulnerability. If a species' specific requirements disappear, the species itself may have no alternative. The soil of tropical rainforests presents a seeming paradox. How can such luxuriant growth arise from such poor soil? Most tropical rainforest soils are ancient and heavily weathered, with nutrients leached away by millennia of high rainfall. The secret lies in rapid nutrient cycling. When a leaf falls in a tropical rainforest, decomposers attack it immediately. Within months or even weeks, most of the nutrients have been released and taken up by roots and mycorrhizae. The nutrients never spend significant time in the soil. They move directly from dying organic matter back into living plants. This rapid cycling means that most of the nutrients in a tropical rainforest are contained in the living vegetation rather than the soil. Clear a rainforest, and the soil exposed is often surprisingly infertile. Without the constant input from decomposing organic matter, and without the network of roots and fungi that capture nutrients as they are released, tropical soils can support agriculture for only a few years before their fertility is exhausted. Many large tropical trees have evolved distinctive buttress roots, wide flanges that extend from the trunk and provide stability. These buttresses allow trees to maintain relatively shallow root systems, keeping their roots in the nutrient-rich surface layer where decomposition releases nutrients. In temperate forests, trees send roots deep to access water. In tropical rainforests, where water is rarely limiting, trees need not root deeply for moisture. The canopy of a tropical rainforest functions almost as a separate ecosystem from the forest floor. Epiphytes, plants that grow on other plants without parasitizing them, flourish in the canopy where they can access light unavailable on the shaded forest floor. Orchids, bromeliads, ferns, and even small shrubs may grow perched on tree branches, their roots absorbing moisture from the air and from organic matter that accumulates in crevices and on branches. These canopy gardens support entire food webs. The pools of water that collect in bromeliad leaf bases host aquatic insects whose larvae develop in these tiny habitats, feeding frogs, spiders, and other predators. The nectar of canopy flowers feeds specialized pollinators, from hummingbirds to bats to countless insects. Fruits produced in the canopy are consumed by monkeys, birds, bats, and other animals that disperse the seeds to new locations. Lianas, woody vines, connect the forest vertically, climbing from the ground to the canopy and using trees for support while competing with them for light. Some lianas become so large and heavy that they can bring down the trees that support them, creating gaps in the canopy that allow light to reach the forest floor and trigger regeneration. The forest floor of a tropical rainforest, despite the abundance overhead, is often relatively open and easy to walk through. The deep shade created by the canopy limits understory growth. Only specialized shade-tolerant plants can survive the dim conditions. When Europeans first explored tropical rainforests and reported being able to walk through them easily, readers accustomed to the tangled undergrowth of temperate forests found the accounts hard to believe. Light gaps play crucial roles in tropical rainforest dynamics. When a large tree falls, either from age, disease, or storm damage, it creates an opening in the canopy. Suddenly, sunlight floods the forest floor, and a race begins. Seedlings that have been waiting in the understory, growing slowly in deep shade, suddenly accelerate their growth. Seeds lying dormant in the soil, stimulated by the change in light conditions, germinate. Fast-growing pioneer species colonize the gap from nearby sources. For a few years, growth in the gap proceeds rapidly, then slows as the canopy closes again and shade returns to the forest floor. These light gaps create a mosaic across the landscape, with patches in different stages of recovery from different disturbances occurring at different times. This patchiness contributes to the overall diversity of the forest by creating habitat for species adapted to different stages of recovery. Tropical rainforests influence regional and even global climate. The enormous amounts of water transpired by rainforest trees create clouds that reflect sunlight and eventually deliver precipitation. The Amazon rainforest, in particular, acts as a giant climate regulator, affecting weather patterns not only in South America but across the Atlantic. Loss of tropical forests can thus have far-reaching climatic consequences, potentially altering rainfall patterns and temperature distributions across continents. The relationship between tropical forests and climate creates concerning possibilities for positive feedbacks. As the climate warms and precipitation patterns shift, tropical forests experience increased stress. Drought, fire, and other disturbances become more common. When forests are degraded or lost, less water is transpired, potentially reducing regional rainfall, which further stresses remaining forests. There is concern that this feedback could push parts of the Amazon and other tropical forests past a tipping point, converting rainforest to savanna and releasing vast amounts of stored carbon, further accelerating global warming. Temperate forest cycles. Temperate forests occupy the middle latitudes, regions between the harsh extremes of boreal and tropical zones. Here, the defining characteristic is seasonality, the regular cycle of growth and dormancy that marks the passage of the year. Nowhere is this more apparent than in temperate deciduous forests, where the trees themselves signal the seasons by dropping their leaves each autumn. The decision to drop leaves, technically called abscission, is not a simple response to cold temperatures but a complex adaptation that involves multiple factors. As days shorten in autumn, trees detect the change in day length through photoreceptor molecules in their leaves. This triggers a cascade of changes. Nutrient transport slows and then reverses, with valuable minerals being withdrawn from the leaves and moved to roots and woody tissues for storage. Chlorophyll breaks down, revealing the yellow and orange pigments that were present all along but masked by the dominant green. Some trees produce new pigments, the brilliant reds and purples, in response to sugars trapped in the leaves as nutrient transport shuts down. At the base of each leaf stem, a layer of specialized cells called the abscission layer forms. These cells develop weak walls that eventually separate, allowing the leaf to fall. This process is carefully controlled. Premature leaf drop wastes nutrients still in the leaves, while keeping leaves too long risks damage from freezing temperatures and the weight of snow. Why go through this elaborate process at all? In the cold, temperate winter, with frozen water unavailable and limited sunlight, photosynthesis becomes difficult or impossible. But leaves continue to lose water through evaporation, and face damage from freezing temperatures and ice crystals forming in their tissues. By dropping leaves, deciduous trees avoid these problems, entering a dormant state where energy demands are minimal until favorable conditions return. The carpet of fallen leaves that accumulates on the forest floor in temperate deciduous forests creates its own ecosystem. In spring and summer, the thick layer provides shelter for countless invertebrates, maintaining cool, moist conditions even when the weather turns hot and dry. As decomposition proceeds, the leaves release nutrients back to the soil, supporting the next generation of growth. The timing of leaf fall and spring emergence varies among tree species, creating a sequence of changes through the season. Some species, like aspens and larches, turn color early and drop their leaves, while other trees remain green. Spring emergence similarly spreads across weeks, with some species leafing out early, while others wait for more reliable warmth. This temporal diversity has ecological consequences, providing resources for animals at different times and allowing trees to partition the growing season, reducing competition for light and water. Temperate deciduous forests in spring, before the canopy fully develops, experience a brief window of opportunity. Sunlight floods the forest floor, and a community of spring wildflowers adapted to these conditions blooms, completes pollination, and produces seeds before the canopy closes and shade returns. These spring ephemerals, including species like trilliums, bloodroot, and hepatica, complete their entire above-ground life cycle in a few weeks, then persist as underground bulbs or rhizomes through the rest of the year. Not all temperate forests are deciduous. The temperate rainforests of the Pacific Northwest, from northern California through British Columbia to Alaska, are dominated by enormous conifers. Douglas fir, western hemlock, Sitka spruce, and western red cedar. These forests receive tremendous rainfall, sometimes exceeding 3 meters annually, brought by storms moving off the Pacific Ocean. The moisture supports growth of remarkable scale. Douglas firs can exceed 60 meters in height and live for over 1,000 years. These temperate coniferous forests share characteristics with both boreal and tropical forests. Like boreal forests, they are dominated by evergreen conifers, but the mild temperatures and abundant moisture allow productivity approaching that of tropical forests. The result is an ecosystem of exceptional biomass, with more organic matter per hectare than almost anywhere else on Earth. The seasonal cycle of temperate forests drives the behavior of resident animals. Many bird species migrate, leaving in autumn for warmer climates, where insects and other food remain available through winter, then returning in spring to breed when food becomes abundant again. Mammals that remain through winter adopt various strategies. Bears hibernate, entering a state of reduced metabolism that allows them to survive months without eating. Smaller mammals like chipmunks cache food in autumn, then wake periodically through winter to eat from their stores. Deer and elk move to lower elevations where snow is less deep and browse on woody vegetation. Amphibians in temperate forests face particular challenges. As ectotherms, they cannot maintain body temperature internally and become inactive when conditions turn cold. Many species hibernate underground below the frost line or in bodies of water that do not freeze solid. In spring, they emerge in mass breeding migrations, with thousands of individuals moving to temporary ponds where they mate, lay eggs, and produce the next generation. The timing of these migrations is critical. Breed too early and the eggs may freeze. Breed too late and the temporary ponds may dry before the tadpoles complete metamorphosis. Fungi play particularly visible roles in temperate forests during autumn. This is when many species produce their fruiting bodies, the mushrooms we notice growing from the forest floor or from fallen logs. These mushrooms represent only the reproductive structures of the fungi. The main body, the mycelium, remains hidden in the soil or wood, breaking down organic matter and forming mycorrhizal associations year-round. The human relationship with temperate forests has been long and profound. Most of the world's major civilizations developed in temperate zones, and temperate forests provided essential resources: timber for construction and fuel, game for food, and land that, once cleared, could support agriculture. As a result, temperate forests have been more thoroughly transformed by human activity than any other forest type. In Europe, relatively little primary forest remains. Most forests are secondary growth that has developed since agricultural abandonment, or are managed as working landscapes for timber production. In eastern North America, the extent of forest cover has actually increased over the past century, as farmland has been abandoned and forests have regenerated. However, these new forests differ substantially from the forests that were cleared in previous centuries. Species composition has changed, with many of the most valuable timber species reduced to small fractions of their former abundance. Forest structure is simplified, lacking the age diversity and complex features of old growth, and fragmentation has broken once continuous forest into isolated patches, affecting species that require large territories or need to migrate between different habitat types. Despite these changes, temperate forests demonstrate remarkable resilience. Given protection from intensive disturbance, they regenerate, albeit slowly and not always with the same composition as before. The existence of substantial temperate forest cover in regions of intensive human use provides hope that conservation and restoration efforts can succeed. Forests and human connection. Humans evolved in forests. Our closest living relatives, the great apes, are forest dwellers. The earliest human ancestors left the forest for the savannas of Africa. But our bodies and minds still bear the marks of our arboreal heritage. Forward-facing eyes for depth perception, hands capable of grasping branches, and cognitive abilities that likely first evolved for navigating complex three-dimensional forest environments. Throughout human history, forests have provided essential resources: timber for construction, fuel for heating and cooking, game for food, materials for tools and medicines. Forests have been both utilized and revered by human cultures worldwide. Many indigenous societies developed sophisticated systems of forest management that sustained both forest ecosystems and human communities for generations. The indigenous peoples of the Pacific Northwest developed complex cultures based on the abundance provided by temperate rainforests and the adjacent marine ecosystem. The massive red cedars provided materials for everything from houses to canoes to clothing. Salmon runs supported large, permanent settlements. The art, social structures, and spiritual traditions of these cultures reflected deep relationships with the forest environment. In the Amazon, indigenous groups have managed forests for thousands of years in ways that enhanced productivity for humans while maintaining forest structure and diversity. Areas that appear to be pristine wilderness often show evidence of past management, with certain useful plant species more abundant than would be expected naturally. This challenges the notion that forests must be left untouched to remain healthy, and suggests that sustainable use is possible with appropriate knowledge and practices. Forests feature prominently in mythology and folklore across cultures. The forest is a place of mystery and danger in many European fairy tales, where wolves lurk and travelers lose their way. But it is also a place of refuge, where heroes hide from their enemies, and where magical encounters occur. In Asian traditions, forests are often sacred spaces, home to spirits and deities, places where humans can seek enlightenment or spiritual renewal. This psychological and spiritual connection to forests may have biological roots. The concept of biophilia, proposed by biologist E.O. Wilson, suggests that humans have an innate affinity for nature, including forests, that reflects our evolutionary history. Modern research provides some support for this idea, showing that exposure to forests and other natural environments reduces stress, improves mood, and enhances cognitive function. The Japanese practice of Shinrin-yoku, or forest bathing, is based on the belief that spending time in forests provides health benefits beyond simple exercise or relaxation. Research has found that time in forests can reduce blood pressure, lower stress hormone levels, boost immune system function, and improve mental well-being. Some of these effects may result from inhaling volatile organic compounds released by trees, though the mechanisms are still being investigated. Forests provide economic value through multiple pathways. Timber and paper products represent obvious direct uses, supporting industries worth hundreds of billions of dollars globally. Less obvious but increasingly recognized are the ecosystem services forests provide. Water purification, carbon sequestration, soil stabilization, pollination, and climate regulation. Economists have attempted to quantify the value of these services, reaching estimates that often exceed the value of timber that might be extracted from the same forests. Tourism and recreation in forests generate substantial economic activity. National parks and forest reserves attract millions of visitors who come to hike, camp, birdwatch, or simply experience the forest environment. In many regions, the economic value of forests for recreation exceeds their value for extractive uses. Forests also serve as reservoirs of genetic diversity that may prove valuable in the future. Many medicines have been derived from forest plants, including aspirin, originally from willow bark, paclitaxel from Pacific yew, and quinine from cinchona bark. Scientists continue to search for new compounds in forest organisms, particularly in biodiversity-rich tropical rainforests, where many species remain unstudied. The complex, traditional knowledge that indigenous peoples have accumulated regarding forest plants and their uses represents another form of value increasingly recognized by biologists and physicians. Ethnobotany, the study of relationships between people and plants, has identified numerous useful species that might otherwise have been overlooked. However, this has also raised ethical issues around intellectual property and benefit sharing when commercial products are developed based on traditional knowledge. As human populations have grown and demands on forests have increased, the relationship between people and forests has become increasingly fraught. Forests are cleared for agriculture, logged for timber, fragmented by roads and development, and degraded by pollution and climate change. The rate of tropical deforestation, in particular, has reached alarming levels, with implications for biodiversity, indigenous peoples, and global climate. Yet, the direction is not uniformly negative. Forest cover in some temperate regions is increasing. Conservation efforts have protected significant areas of forest. Sustainable forestry practices have improved, balancing timber production with ecosystem health. Restoration projects are rebuilding forests in degraded areas. The future of forests depends largely on the choices humanity makes about how to value and manage them. Threats, resilience, and hope. The threats facing forests vary by region and forest type, but certain patterns appear worldwide. Deforestation, the complete clearing of forests, remains a primary concern, particularly in tropical regions. According to research published in the journal Science, approximately 80% of global deforestation results from agricultural expansion, with beef production, soybean cultivation, palm oil plantations, and other agricultural activities driving forest conversion. When forests are cleared, the impacts extend far beyond the immediate loss of trees. Soil erosion accelerates as the roots that held soil in place decay. Nutrient-rich topsoil washes away, reducing the site's capacity to support future growth. Local climate becomes more extreme as the moderating influence of the forest disappears. Streams that were once fed by gradual water release from forested watersheds experience flash flooding during rains and dry up during dry periods. For biodiversity, deforestation can be catastrophic. Species that depend on forest habitat lose their homes. Those requiring large territories find themselves confined to fragments too small to support viable populations. Specialists adapted to specific forest conditions have nowhere else to go. The loss of tropical forests, in particular, likely drives thousands of species extinctions, most occurring unnoticed as obscure insects, fungi, or plants disappear before science even documents their existence. Forest degradation, the reduction in forest quality without complete clearing, affects even larger areas than outright deforestation. Selective logging, poorly managed grazing, chronic fire, pollution, and invasive species all degrade forests while leaving the basic tree cover intact. Degraded forests may look green from satellite images, but function differently than healthy forests, supporting less biodiversity, storing less carbon, and providing fewer ecosystem services. Climate change represents an increasingly significant threat to forests worldwide. Rising temperatures alter the ranges where tree species can survive. Some species will be able to shift their ranges poleward or upward in elevation as climate zones move. Others, Particularly long-lived species that reproduce slowly may not adapt quickly enough. Changing precipitation patterns create water stress in regions where forests developed under wetter conditions. Droughts weaken trees, making them vulnerable to insects, diseases, and fire. Insect outbreaks have increased in frequency and severity in many regions, partly due to climate change. Warmer winters allow more insects to survive, and longer growing seasons can enable additional generations per year. Mountain pine beetles, which historically were limited by cold winter temperatures, have expanded their range and killed millions of hectares of trees across western North America. The dead trees dry out and become fuel for massive wildfires, creating a cascade of impacts. Wildfire frequency and intensity have increased in many forest regions, driven by a combination of climate change, fire suppression policies that allowed fuel to accumulate, and increasing human presence in forested areas. While fire is a natural component of many forest ecosystems, the size and severity of recent fires in places like California, Australia, and the Amazon have exceeded historical ranges of variability, killing trees that evolved with less extreme fire regimes and preventing normal regeneration. Air pollution affects forests even far from industrial sources. Acid rain, caused by sulfur and nitrogen emissions, has damaged forests in eastern North America and Europe, though regulations have reduced this impact in recent decades. Ground-level ozone inhibits photosynthesis, reducing tree growth. Nitrogen deposition, while acting as a fertilizer in the short term, can eventually acidify soils and alter ecosystem nutrient balance. Invasive species, both plants and pests introduced from other regions, pose serious threats to forest health. Chestnut blight, a fungus accidentally introduced to North America in the early 1900s, eliminated the American chestnut, once one of the dominant trees in eastern forests, as a canopy species. Emerald ash borer, a beetle native to Asia, has killed hundreds of millions of ash trees since its introduction to North America. Invasive plants can alter forest understories, preventing native tree regeneration. Despite these threats, forests demonstrate remarkable resilience. Given protection from intensive disturbance and with natural regeneration or assisted restoration, forests recover. This resilience provides the foundation for conservation and restoration efforts worldwide. Protected areas, including national parks, wilderness areas, and nature reserves, conserve significant expanses of forest. While the total protected area remains insufficient to conserve all forest biodiversity, particularly in tropical regions, protected areas have prevented forest loss that would otherwise have occurred and provide reference points for understanding how undisturbed forests function. Sustainable forest management practices, when properly implemented, can produce timber and other products while maintaining much of a forest's ecological function. Practices like reduced impact logging, which carefully plans harvest operations to minimize damage to remaining trees and soil, can allow continued timber extraction while preserving habitat for many species. Selection harvesting, where only certain trees are removed rather than clear-cutting entire stands, maintains forest structure. Certification programs like the Forest Stewardship Council provide market-based mechanisms encouraging sustainable practices. By identifying wood products sourced from responsibly managed forests, these programs allow consumers to support better forest management through their purchasing decisions. Forest restoration has become a major focus of conservation efforts. The United Nations Decade on Ecosystem Restoration, running from 2021 to 2030, aims to catalyze restoration projects worldwide, including extensive forest restoration. Success stories demonstrate what is possible. In South Korea, sustained reforestation efforts have increased forest cover from less than 35% after the Korean War to over 60% today. In Costa Rica, forest cover has increased from about 25% in the 90s to over 10% currently, achieved through a combination of policy changes, payments for ecosystem services, and changed economic incentives. Research projects like biodiversity, conducted at the Smithsonian Environmental Research Center, are providing insights into best practices for forest restoration. This project planted 18,000 trees across 70 plots with varying species diversity, from monocultures to plots with 12 different species. After 10 years, the results clearly show benefits of diversity. Plots with more species have bigger trees, richer soil, more diverse animal communities, and lower temperatures than monoculture plots. Such research helps guide restoration efforts toward approaches that rebuild not just tree cover but functional ecosystems. Indigenous communities who manage or have rights to significant areas of remaining forests worldwide have increasingly been recognized as essential partners in forest conservation. Research shows that forests under indigenous management often experience less deforestation and maintain higher biodiversity than even formally protected areas. Supporting indigenous land rights and traditional forest management practices represents a conservation strategy increasingly embraced by environmental organizations. The future of forests depends on choices made at multiple scales, from international agreements on climate change and deforestation to national policies on land use and conservation to individual decisions about consumption and support for conservation efforts. The challenges are significant, but so are the opportunities. Forests have persisted through previous periods of environmental change. With informed management and genuine commitment to their conservation, they can persist through current challenges as well, continuing to provide the services upon which biodiversity, climate stability, and human well-being depend. The symphony of forest sounds and sensory worlds. Before we drift toward our closing thoughts, let us pause to consider an aspect of forests that exists beyond the visible, beyond what we have discussed in terms of structure and function and ecology. Let us consider the sensory world of the forest, the sounds, the scents, the textures that together create an experience of forest life that photographs and descriptions can never fully capture. Stand in a forest at dawn and listen. Really listen, not just to identify individual sounds, but to hear the whole acoustic environment as a layered composition. The first birds begin calling while darkness still holds the forest floor, their songs serving as territorial announcements and invitations to potential mates. As light increases, more voices join, the territorial calls of songbirds establishing boundaries, the contact calls between mates maintaining connection, the alarm calls warning of predators. Each species has its own acoustic signature, its own frequency range and pattern of sound production. Warblers produce high-pitched trills. Thrushes deliver flute-like melodies. Woodpeckers hammer against dead wood in rhythmic patterns, the sound carrying through the forest to announce territory. But the forest soundscape includes far more than birds. Insects create a constant background hum during warmer months, a collective buzzing produced by countless individuals, each contributing to the overall acoustic texture. In tropical forests, the insect chorus reaches levels unimaginable in temperate zones, with cicadas in particular capable of producing sound levels that approach the threshold of human hearing damage. Some tropical insect calls are so loud that researchers working in these forests must raise their voices to be heard over the insect symphony. Mammals contribute their own vocalizations. The distant bugling of elk during autumn rut, the territorial howls of wolves, the chattering alarm calls of squirrels warning their neighbors of danger. Frogs and toads add their voices during breeding seasons, particularly in forests, with vernal pools and wetlands where amphibians gather in mass aggregations. On spring evenings in temperate forests, the chorus of spring peepers and other frogs can be deafening, hundreds or thousands of individuals calling simultaneously, each male attempting to attract females through the quality and persistence of his call. Wind moving through forest canopies creates its own complex acoustic signature, different for different forest types and different tree species. The needles of conifers produce a soft, rushing sound, like waters moving over smooth stones. The broad leaves of deciduous trees rustle and clatter, creating a percussion section in the forest orchestra. Listen carefully, and you can hear individual leaves tapping against each other, branches creaking as they sway, and the deeper groaning sounds of entire tree trunks flexing in stronger gusts. Rain in the forest produces layered sounds as drops strike at different levels. First, the canopy receives the rain, and you hear the patter of water striking leaves and branches overhead. Then, water begins dripping from the canopy, falling to lower levels, each drop creating its own small sound as it strikes leaves, branches, logs, or finally, the leaf litter on the forest floor. Heavy rain in a dense forest creates a sustained rushing sound. Thousands of individual drops combining into a continuous acoustic blanket that drowns out most other forest sounds. The scents of forests are as distinctive and varied as their sounds. Pine forests carry the sharp, clean smell of terpenes, volatile organic compounds that conifers produce and release into the air. These compounds give pine forests their characteristic aroma, one that humans almost universally find pleasant, and that research suggests may have genuine health benefits. Walk through a pine forest on a warm day, and with each breath you inhale these volatile compounds, molecules that were synthesized by trees and that now interact with your olfactory receptors, creating the experience we call scent. Deciduous forests smell different, particularly in autumn when fallen leaves begin decomposing. The sweet, earthy aroma of decay arises from the metabolic activities of fungi and bacteria breaking down organic matter, releasing volatile compounds as byproducts of decomposition. This smell, while perhaps less celebrated than the scent of pines, is equally characteristic of temperate forests, the olfactory signature of nutrient cycling in action. Tropical forests have their own distinct scents, often heavy and complex, mixtures of floral fragrances from blooming plants, rotting vegetation, damp earth, and the musky odors of animals. The heat and humidity of tropical forests amplify scent, causing volatile compounds to evaporate more readily and linger in the still, saturated air. Walk through a tropical forest, and you move through pockets of different scents, each step bringing new olfactory experiences as you pass flowering vines, decomposing logs, fruiting trees, or areas where animals have marked territory. The tactile experience of forests engages yet another sense. The texture of bark varies tremendously among tree species. The rough, deeply furrowed bark of old oaks, the smooth gray bark of beeches, the papery bark of birches that peels away in thin sheets, the spongy bark of sequoias thick enough to insulate the tree's interior from fire damage. Touch a tree, and you connect with it in a direct physical way, feeling the surface that protects the living tissues beneath, the interface between tree and environment. Walk barefoot on a forest floor, and you experience the give of leaf litter, the cushioning provided by layers of decaying leaves that compress under your weight. The temperature of the forest floor, typically cooler than surrounding open areas, conducts through your feet. The moisture, often present even during dry weather because of the forest's ability to maintain humidity, dampens the soil and leaf litter. Each forest has its own particular texture underfoot, influenced by what trees grow there, how much litter accumulates, and how rapidly decomposition proceeds. These sensory experiences of forests are not merely aesthetic pleasures, though they certainly provide that. They represent the actual physical and chemical reality of forest ecosystems, made perceptible to human senses. The sounds we hear are vibrations propagating through air, carrying information about what organisms are present and what they are doing. The scents are actual molecules produced by living and decomposing organisms, chemical signatures of the biochemical processes sustaining forest life. The textures we feel are the physical structures that organisms have built, layer upon layer of accumulated growth and decay. Understanding forests requires engaging with them, not just intellectually, through scientific study and data analysis, but sensorily, through direct experience of their sights, sounds, scents, and textures. Each forest has its own particular character, its own acoustic signature, its own olfactory profile, its own tactile qualities. These characteristics change with the seasons, with the time of day, with the weather. A forest you visit repeatedly never quite presents the same face twice. There is always something new to notice, some subtle variation in the sensory experience. This variability itself reveals the dynamic nature of forests, the constant flux beneath their apparent stability. Closing reflection. And so we come to the end of our journey through the world's forests, these green cathedrals where life has woven itself into patterns of stunning intricacy across millions of years. We have explored forests from the frozen taiga of the far north to the steaming rainforests of the equator, from their towering canopies to the hidden networks beneath our feet. We have seen how forests shape climate and water, how they harbor most of the world's terrestrial biodiversity, how they store carbon and filter water and moderate temperature. We have learned that forests are not merely collections of trees, but integrated systems where countless organisms interact in relationships ranging from competition to cooperation. We have discovered underground fungal networks that connect trees, allowing them to share resources and information. We have glimpsed the remarkable biodiversity that forests support, from the largest mammals to the microscopic bacteria that make soil alive. We have traced forests through time, seeing how they develop over decades and centuries, how old-growth forests possess characteristics that take generations to develop, how disturbances and recovery create ever-changing mosaics across landscapes. We have recognized forests' profound connections to human life, the resources they provide, the spiritual significance they hold, the health benefits they offer simply through their presence. And we have confronted the challenges forests face, from deforestation to climate change to invasive species, while also finding reasons for hope in conservation successes, restoration projects, and the remarkable resilience forests demonstrate when given the chance to recover. As you settle into rest now, let these forest stories drift with you. Let yourself imagine standing among ancient trees, breathing air filtered through countless leaves, feeling the soft give of leaf litter beneath your feet. The forest is more than a place. It is a process, a community, a conversation between soil and the sky that has been continuing for longer than we can readily comprehend. It continues even now, even as you rest, in the quiet, patient rhythms that characterize these green and growing places. If these quiet explorations have brought you peace, if you would like others to find this gentle space where science and rest intertwine, I invite you to like this video, to subscribe to the Sleepy Science Society, and to share your thoughts in the comments below. Your support helps this little community of sleepy learners grow. But for now, simply let go. Let your breath slow. Let your body sink into whatever surface supports you. The forests of the world continue their ancient work whether we watch or not, converting sunlight into life, cycling nutrients, sheltering countless creatures, shaping the very atmosphere we breathe. You can rest in the knowledge that these systems persist, that nature's resilience continues to operate, that the complexity and beauty of forests endure. Sleep well, knowing that tomorrow the forests will still stand, their leaves will still catch the sun, their roots will still reach deep into the earth, and the quiet conversation between all their countless parts will continue as it has for millions of years, as it will for millions more if we make the choices that allow it. Good night.